First of all, thanks for coming over, and I want to make sure that I have something super cool, super interesting for all y'all. And Rick's kind of mentioned what we do. We deliver financial wellness to the employer. We're a financial health company. It's what we call as an engagement platform. The way I kind of got interested in this space was about 9 years ago because there was nothing available. I moved here about 9 years ago, and when I came in, I had to make a bunch of decisions about things that I had no idea about. I was just turning over to my colleagues to ask for questions with regards to what is this 401k thing? Or I was asking questions about insurances or whatever particular benefits that the company provided. And I made a ton of mistakes. But it was okay for me to make those mistakes because I was at a certain salary bracket. But there are a bunch of people out there who can't afford to make these mistakes. These people take loans that they cannot pay back. These people refinance loans where they lose the privileges of, let's say it's a student loan and it's a federal loan of those, because there's so much complexity and these people get hurt big time and it's super hard for them to get out. And I'm going to share some stats with you so that you can see how bad it is. But then there's this awakening across not just the consumer space, but across the employer space because they're getting hurt as well. Especially big companies who have large operations forces, they are getting hurt by this concept of financial stress. People get sick. People cannot come to the office because their car breaks down and they can't fix it. People get evicted. We launched our service about a year ago, literally in the second month. And we launched in Mississippi among all the states. And in the first month, we saw 29 people getting evicted. And we've been able to help them out so that they could actually stay. And you can imagine the cost of getting evicted. Everything doesn't start from zero. It basically starts from below zero, and it just makes it impossible for them to work. So luckily, now the employers are actually caring about this. We, as a mission-driven company, we want to deliver the service to them and help them across all the facets of their finances, which is very important. Brightside is about helping you with all the facets of your finances, not just one. If you're about to refinance your student loan, it's not about just refinancing your student loan. It's about how much money you have on a monthly basis, what happens with your credit card balance, do you have any emergency savings, what do you do with your 401k? We make all these mistakes, as I said, and there's the best way to optimize it for you. And if you do that, then you can, I would say, thrive and survive. But if you can't, especially if you're making, below $60,000, you are getting into a financial hole. So I'm going to share a few data points. So as I said, financial stress is a big problem, and based on some of the researches that are conducted by the audit companies, it's a few $100 million that are costing to large employers. And this is due to the fact that 78% of the Americans live paycheck to paycheck. What that means is they don't even have savings, right? And people have about roughly $40,000 of student loan debt. 21% of employees have 401k loans outstanding. There's this whole 401k loan leakage problem across all kinds of companies. It's not just specific to companies, employing blue-collar workers, but it's also true, high-tech, large companies. And the annual credit card interest expense is increasing every other month. So it's super hard for people to actually deal with that. But then this particular notion of the overdraft fees, these are the things that happen to those who have the least of the means, and therefore they are the ones who get hurt the most. And again, as mentioned, employers are the ones who are realizing that, and they need a service. And that's essentially the story about Brightside. Brightside has an interesting starting point where all these point solutions were actually being presented to Comcast, who's our first customer. And what happened is they could not trust point solutions. They could not trust point solutions to have a model that would be 100% aligned with the consumer. They'd always have this question about, are they pushing products that the end users actually don't need? They needed a centralized service that would actually look at the personal situation of that individual and then present them the options, the solutions, only then. And certainly those are things that they're not available out there, but they want to make sure that's possible.
It's coming.
One more time? Okay. And this is super important. Like, it's super key to have 100% alignment around the consumer's benefits. There can't be any referrals, bounties, ads. Even if you have the best intentions, whenever you're under pressure to optimize for the outcomes, you might, as a business owner, optimize for your own versus the end user. That cannot exist, especially when we're talking about financial health. That's our thesis. And this is why Comcast, with another investor, Trinity Ventures, wanted to create this company. And about a year and a half ago, started assembling the team. And about a year ago, we launched. We launched in Mississippi, as I said, and then we started expanding across different states. And our goal has been to focus on places where there's the most need, and as the one place to go for all your money needs. So there's a bit more information about this, and we have been also CFSI, and we're one of their portfolio companies. And here's a quick overview of how we do this. Our thinking is, you have the financial coaches out there. You go to financial coaches, they listen to you, they talk to you, they know more than a website or a mobile app would know about you because of the interaction and the level of information you share. But there's not a crafted product or a solution that they could present to you. All they can tell you is, go to the local bank, check out this website, do something, right? So the execution is broken. Then you go to other services, let's say like Credit Karma. They give you a broad range of services with some level of personalization, but then you make the decision, you proceed with a solution where you could make mistakes. You don't know how to navigate. Self-service systems are extremely helpful, but still super hard to navigate, and there's a lot of risk. People make a ton of mistakes. So what we do is we bridge the gap between the two. So you have a concierge service. It's as simple as talking to someone, but you have a data platform that integrates with the solutions that you can't, as an individual, find elsewhere. And then, some of the ideas are super straightforward. For instance, if you are someone who has been employed for 2 years, 3 years, and has therefore a consistent payroll coming in, why would you not have an option to refinance your debt through the regular means just because you have 550 credit score? Or why would you need to pay so much on that? So what we're doing is we're working with these partners who buy into our data model, who want to work with us, who are also mission-driven, to deliver these solutions for a range of topics: student loans, for debt management on high priority debt, savings, to make sure that anybody out there has an alternative. And it's so easy. It's as simple as sending a message, as simple as picking up the basically phone and talking to someone who is essentially someone who is trained to use our data platform, use our services to present you the solutions, but also understand exactly who you are and where you're coming from, and build that long-term relationships. Because in this kind of situation, this 7 to 8% who are living paycheck to paycheck, everything is going to happen one conversation at a time. It's not going to happen simply by going through some checkout experience of a financial product on an online page. Just to recap, Brightside is like having your personal assistant for your finances. It's as simple as sending a message, conversing with a person that you really know and you really like. Our thesis is that all these solutions are interconnected. We should not ever be thinking of them in a silo, otherwise we would be making mistakes for that person, or the person would be making mistakes. So therefore, the engagement is super critical to understand where the gaps are and what we can do for them. And again, everything that we do is 100% aligned with the end user. When we have these partner solutions that are presented through us, if there's a bounty that they pass to us as a referral fee, we basically kick it forward to the end user and we put it in a savings account for them. We make it super easy for them to actually build their savings, emergency savings, as well as keep things under control by simply working with us. That's all I have. Questions?
Yeah. How do you make money?
We operate like any other SaaS product. We get paid per employee and essentially get paid by the employer. Yeah.
So why was Comcast particularly concerned about this problem?
Comcast is one of the best companies in the nation in terms of benefits, and they have a few $1 billion in their budget for their benefits. And they had a company similar to what we do called Accolade. They're doing this for healthcare. So they always thought about, okay, we have this service that saves people money and relieves stress when they need to figure out their healthcare situation. Why don't we have something similar for financial stress? So they've been actually looking for that company, but they couldn't find it. And they also had auditors running studies as to understand how much this could cost to companies across the nation. And finally, they just pulled the trigger.
Have you been able to measure stress reduction with them and their employees?
We have started. It's interesting. We get some sense about how it changes after our interactions with the end users. What we're trying to do is we want to build it across a longer time period, about 18 to 2 years, months to 2 years. I think we're going to have more data. In fact, we're going to publish these data points once we get there. We just elapsed our first year. But we're collecting that data very carefully.
How do you select your partners and make sure that you're really delivering the right product to the right user?
Super important. So partners, we have two kinds of partners. One is the employer. And some employers, they take the services, or they have been taking the services as just like a checklist item. Like, okay, let's just get a person, like any company who says we're about financial health. But we try not to work with these partners because it is far more involved to have actually someone being presented as the personal assistant for your finances and integrate with their internal systems to get the right level of data to customize the products. So that's number one. Like for partners, we really work with, we call the crusaders, the innovators in the employer space who really want to deliver financial health to their employees. On the partner front, on the lending side, there are companies who are delivering employee loans. Not sure if you heard of them. We work with those who are okay with us doing the first analysis whether this person actually should be taking that loan. So we are essentially the interface before anyone goes to any kind of loan products on their own with the same thesis of you could make mistakes. Let's just start understanding the entire spectrum, and then let's connect you with the right solutions. Whomever buys into that becomes our partner.
So I have two questions. One, whether it's only employer focused, meaning if I am an employee of a certain company, I get to use your services or the platform, but what happens when I move to a different company?
We keep our employees, our clients as we call them, as alumni, and they continue to use the service. Currently, that's how we work, because the way this business is going to grow is like you go to the next company and you say, I want Brightside.
Sure, got it. And second, have you looked at, like, are you only present in North America? Have you looked at other markets?
We're currently just focused on United States, and because the problem is already super big and complicated. So let's start from there. Yeah.
A couple questions. First, when you talk about personal assistance, how much of that is tech-driven versus human-driven? Second, how do you handle conflicts of interest where the best piece of advice for the employee is to leave that company because they are underpaid?
That's like the first one is an easy one, the second one is not an easy one. We created this role that's called Brightside Financial Assistants, and then we explain them as personal assistants for all your finances. This person is here to influence you in the way for doing the right thing for your finances. This person is to articulate what you should be doing and building the relationship. Everything that spans across that they're dealing with these topics and presenting the solutions, that all is driven by tech. So they have their own systems to understand, okay, what is the solution I should be presenting to this person, and what are the pros and cons of each of them. And you can imagine the client, the end user, using a simple interface as chat, whereas on the other side, their assistant using something as complicated as TurboTax, like Flow, right? Which delivers you a standardized sort of format of how you present the solutions. So a good chunk of that is driven by tech, but the interaction is, again, based on our promise, is not self-service, it's about human. We have to have humans in place to better understand where you're coming from, motivators, your barriers, why don't you do these things, and get you more engaged and pay attention to. Second one is, no employer, none of the employers we've spoken to so far have obviously said, well, there's financial stress because we're not paying enough. Nobody's saying that. We believe, though, with the insights that we're generating, we are starting these conversations. Because of some of the data points I talked about, like why do we have people who are sleeping in their cars in a huge company, one of the biggest companies in the United States? Why do we have people who are at the brink of getting eviction? They're packing up their boxes as they are calling Brightside to get help. Why do we have people who can't afford a plane ticket when their grandmother dies and they can't actually go to the funeral? Like, there are a bunch of stories like that, which companies like the executive team don't know about. So what we do is we're sharing insights to actually around that, and hopefully they're going to have a more, I would say, educated view on whether they're underpaying or overpaying their employees.
And then, Koray, I just want to ask one final question for you. Can you talk too about your experience with CFSI and the FinLab program and what that's been like?
We have been talking to CFSI probably for about 18 months. It has been one of the key goals for us to get into their program, to make sure that people understand that we are a truly mission-driven company, and we are focusing on the right problem. So it was one of our goals. And secondly, it was pretty generous from their perspective to connect us with certain advisors on certain fronts, whether that's about the product design, in terms of building I would say the behavioral science parts of how we craft the experience, as well as doing the certain introductions. But definitely, we feel like home when it comes to like the kind of companies that they have been picking, and the access to that knowledge.
Have any of the financial service firms you're working with started working with you to provide financial help for their own employees?
Are you talking about the partners?
Correct.
No.
Become customers.
No, not yet.
One question. The financial stress might come when you get fired. So do you provide continuity of service at this point in time? Or is that the time when you lose your service?
There's no time currently where you lose the service. We focus on what we call internally, just to be more detailed, triggers. There's a life cycle of the employee that they go through. People take disability leave. People take parental leaves. People take leaves or pay cuts for whatever services. Some people have their bonuses basically fluctuating. We are engaging with these people at the right point, right time. We try to, right, as much as the data is available, and to help them be prepared. And within the framework of what we can provide, we continue to work with them. And as I said, that's why we have this definition of alumni. Doesn't matter you get fired, you can still talk to Brightside.